Hello, Namaskar, welcome to my pod, the CAA Show. CAA as Alphanos Conversations and Analysis, and my name is Juggi Bhasin. I'm going to begin this podcast by contrasting two images for you. Because images, as I say, a picture is worth more than 1,000 words, and images tell you a story. The first image, if you take a mind back, was in June of this year, after the general elections, when the Prime Minister went to the BJP headquarters to make a victory speech. And as we all know, it was a truncated victory, not a very convincing victory, and it showed the Prime Minister was not looking his usual confident, energetic self at that particular rally at the BJP headquarters. Now contrast that image with yesterday's image when the Prime Minister went to the BJP headquarters to make again a victory speech, this time after winning Haryana. And this was a different Modi we saw. This was a Modi, by the way, which I haven't seen before. Even he was very unlike even his earlier self. This was a man who was very quietly but supremely confident. He was almost like a laser. He was pinpointing on the issues he wanted to talk about, especially his attacks on the Congress party. He was very, very clear about the vision of the BJP, and I did not detect even an iota of arrogance or pride after winning this political miraculous Haryana election. This was a totally different Modi which I saw yesterday, and if this Modi continues in the sense that this is the same version of the Modi now we see as we go forward, then it's going to spell very, very bad news for the opposition in the country, and especially for the upcoming elections, Maharashtra election, Jharkhand elections, Delhi elections. The fortunes of the BJP could be on upswing, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. But even before I begin talking about all that, I want to tell you that the BJP this time deployed a 4-point strategy to pull off this political miracle in Haryana. I'm going to expand on these 4 points in my podcast. But before I do that, as usual, I would urge all of you to please subscribe to my channel, the CAA Show. It's very, very simple, really. All you have to do is to press the red button on your screen. Subscription is, of course, completely free. And I would really appreciate if you could like the show also and share this video with your friends, your colleagues, and your peers. Now, let's get back to this very, very exciting development which has happened in Indian politics. A development which I think has far-reaching consequences. It might actually change the shape of Indian politics as we go along. Let's talk of this 4-point strategy. The first point in this strategy: when the chips are down, then it is best to hunker down, keep quiet, and work behind the scenes quietly, very, very hard, and very, very efficiently. And this is precisely what the BJP did in their, I'm talking of the first point of their strategy. And something else along with that. They not only hunker down and work quietly behind the scenes, I think they used a game of deception to fool everybody in this country. All podcasters, all media outlets, all psephologists, everyone. They fooled everyone. And what did they really do? They led us to believe that the Prime Minister was not the same man as before. He had considerably weakened. We were seeing probably a different version of the Prime Minister that was coming across so clearly. And I think about it, that it was all part of an act. And then the second deception, which I think it is a deception which was carried out, was these huge differences between the BJP and the RSS, which are played out in the public. Again, to showcase that the BJP had weakened. I think this was all part of an act. This is all part of a deception to completely fool the opposition. And the reality is, when I say they were working quietly and very, very hard behind the scenes, what I really mean was that the BJP and the RSS had probably patched up quite some time back, because now there are reports which are coming in that the BJP and the RSS workers went door to door quietly without the media glare, More than 16,000 rallies, some people are saying, were addressed by the combined BJP RSS people. Again, small rallies which you were not noticed in the media. While everybody was waxing eloquent on all kinds of issues, the BJP RSS had patched up and they were working diligently, quietly and very, very hard behind the scenes. A massive deception, I think, for everybody else, but this was strategy number one which the BJP deployed to completely throw off guard the opposition. Let's come to the strategy number two which the BJP deployed to pull off, as I said, this political miracle in Haryana. It wanted the other side, it wanted the opposition to end up making a fool of themselves by their overconfidence. This was, I think, a part of the strategy. And what do I mean by that? How did they do that? Let me explain to you a little bit more clearly. See, let's take the issue of 2 or 3 men and then you will understand what I'm talking about. Let's talk of Bhupinder Hooda. Bhupinder Hooda was like, he was moving around Haryana as he was the boss of all these surveys. There were even reports coming in that he has this wonderful equation with Sonia Gandhi and she cannot refuse him. And he therefore he had, in his arrogance, he had said that nothing doing, these are the candidates I want. He had actually sidelined Selja completely, as we know, only given 9 of our candidates tickets. He had secure tickets for all his people. He was all over the place, as he was already anointed king. He was already anointed as the chief minister of Haryana. And what did his son Dipinder do? If you remember that infamous incident when Vinesh Phogat landed from Paris and she came and she was walking out of the airport, and this man, he goes all the way from Haryana in a flotilla, I call it a flotilla of cars, BMWs, Mercedes and all that, to meet and cheer Vinesh Phogat. And the question which I think nobody was asking at that time, because everybody was cheering Vinesh Phogat, was that, excuse me, did you go to Paris to play politics, or were you a sports person who should have fought till the very end and kept politics out of sports? But it appeared very, very clearly that Vinesh Phogat was playing politics all along, and Dipinder Hooda did not cover himself in glory by going, and then, those scenes of Vinesh Phogat being taken in an open air car and going through the streets all the way to Haryana. That didn't go down well with the public at all, because the public is very, very clear. If you play sports, then play sports like a sports person, not like a politician. And that was the point of the Hooda clan, which were all over the place with their aggression, all over the place with their overconfidence, all over the place with these kind of strategic moves to keep out Selja and the Dalit community out from the reckoning in Haryana. All this, and the BJP was, I think, probably smiling, and they were just saying, wonderful, great job, keep on doing this and pave the way for us. And then the other overconfidence, and I think that was also part of a plan now, which now it's becoming very, very clear that they allowed, I'm using the word within quotes, they allowed Rahul Gandhi to, what do I say, to behave as he was probably like King Kong, or as a lot of people have started saying, the Chanakya of Indian politics. Starting from, if you remember that speech in Parliament which Rahul Gandhi made, where he was all fire and brimstone, and then the disrespect he showed when he took out photos of Hindu deities, and then it has been non-stop after that, this complete newfound aggression of Mr. Rahul Gandhi, rolling up his sleeves, showing his gym muscles, I would say, and struggling along that he had not won 100 seats, but he had probably won the elections. He had won maybe over 300 seats in Parliament. And the BJP, I think everybody was getting frustrated who was supporting the BJP, that what the hell is really going on? Why don't they counter the man? But I think it was part of a quite deliberate strategy. Let this man overexpose himself, let this man strut around, to go all over the place, and he not only did that, he went beyond that. As we all know, there were two major mistakes which Mr. Rahul Gandhi, I think, has made. Was that he started then, he actually shook the faith of a lot of people who might have put some faith in him when he went after the ideals of Hinduism, couched in so-called secular terms, but everybody knew what he was really up to. People were not happy with that. But more important than that even also was when he went abroad and he was seen, having this wonderful time conversations with people everybody knows, anti-national people, people who are not well disposed towards India, people like Ilhan Omar, for instance, in the United States, those kind of people. And then this entire anti-India rhetoric where you run down your own country, you run down the institutions of the country, a reference which, by the way, the Prime Minister made to the speech yesterday. And I think the BJP let it happen. They did not very vociferously counter this, and all of us were wondering that what is going on with the BJP, why don't they counter? But I think it was part of this deliberate plan where they wanted Mr. Rahul Gandhi, they wanted the Huda clan, they wanted all these people to overexpose themselves with their rhetoric, where their pronouncement, some would even say anti-national sentiment and statements, all that was going on, and I think all that worked in favor of the BJP. And then third, this was the big one actually, the BJP, the third strategy which they deployed was to empower the weakest and not the strongest. And that was key in this election. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, the charts, for instance, this entire issue, as a lot of people, all of us know, became to a very large extent an issue of the Jats versus the non-Jats. And it is not as if all the Jats have voted against the BJP or have voted for the Congress. There has been a certain section of the Jats which have voted for the BJP, but overall, still a large section of the Jats have certainly voted for the Congress. But what was the BJP strategy all along? See, the Jats, whether we like it or not, actually are the landed class in Haryana, which means they have access to the resources, which means they already start with an advantage. And it is but natural that the other castes, the weaker sections, they are quite wary of the Jat dominance in the state of Haryana. And therefore, what really was going on was that the BJP, as I said, I'll take you to the first 2 points, they were quietly working behind the scenes. They were banding together the other communities. The BJP RSS combined was banding together all the other communities, and nobody was noticing this. And the other communities also decided to keep quiet during this entire electioneering season. And then they decided to let their voice be heard at the time when they went to vote, when they all resolutely voted against Jat dominance in Haryana. That is what really happened. And therefore, please also understand, the other castes have not been very comfortable with 2 or 3 other developments also. This entire Kisan agitation. And even though Mr. Rahul Gandhi keeps talking of a caste census and empowering the lower caste, but in actuality, what does he support? He supports things like the Kisan agitation. And who actually funds and fuels and carries on the Kisan agitations? It is, of course, to that extent, the Jat community. It is, of course, the more empowered, the more strong communities in both the states, in Haryana and Punjab, people who have resources at their disposal. These are the people who carry on these agitations. And you think the lower caste did not notice that? They were not resentful of the fact that we can't do this, they are doing this, and we don't want this, but they probably had no say when all these agitations were going on. So there were a lot of these points, and the BJP understood, and I think quietly behind the scene, the BJP RSS combined came together and bandied people together to vote against the dominance of one particular community or one particular caste in these elections. And then the choice the new choice of the Chief Minister Naib Singh Saini. Again, a man, not only from the OBC community, but again a man who is quiet, who is unassuming, but who was doing, even in those 6 months which he had a chance, he was doing terrific work behind the scenes. And the people actually felt comfortable with this kind of a chief minister who was there, who was who was not representing one particular caste only in that particular scene, was actually representing the weaker sections in a certain way. And then the most significant thing, all the needling questions on issues like MSP and Agniveer were answered in the Haryana election. Let's not forget that. We are not noticing this factor also. The BJP gave the MSP, the best MSP prices on 24 crops. And that probably not only the other people, all the other castes, but even the Jat farmers who are wondering after that what is the point in asking for a legalized MSP when we are getting even more than what we think we can get by the government, which is giving us such wonderful MSP rates for so many different crops. That was the first point. And number two, there was a very significant speech of the Home Minister which he made in Haryana, where he very categorically and clearly said that, listen, this Agniveer scheme, these kids who will walk out after finishing their tenure for 4, 5, 6, whatever years, and they would walk out with 20, 30 lakhs or whatever, but they would get jobs. They would get jobs with pension after that. It was a categorical statement made by the Home Minister, and that I think has reassured a lot of people. And that resentment which was being fueled by the opposition in Haryana subsided to a large extent. But as I said, none of us noticed that. The media did not notice that. And this was part of that quiet behind the scenes work of the BJP, that all these changes were taking place. This did not come as a lot of people think, how did this happen? The Congress was riding so high, and how did things change in the last moment, in the 24th hours, as I say? These things had been changing on the ground for quite some time. But as I said, it was not in the media glare and we were not noticing. And talking of the media, now that is a totally different subject which I want to talk about, but I'll talk about that maybe in another podcast day, tomorrow, the day after. I will do that because the media has played an absolutely dubious role in this entire matter, but we are going to talk a little bit more maybe tomorrow or the day after. And then for the final part of the strategy, let us also understand the final part of the strategy. This is what I call the Hindutva banding coming together. Simple dictum, the old English line, united we stand, divided we fall. The new line, which the rally cry which Yogi now has given, batenge to katenge, the same variations of this which have been said by the Prime Minister in an election rally in Haryana and also said by the RSS chief a few days before the election process before the voting started. What really has happened this time is that, let's face facts, even though the so-called Hindu population is an amorphous population, there are all kinds, as I said, castes, subcastes, categories within it, but there has been now a banding together, a coming together. People are seeing with their own eyes what is happening both within the country and outside the country, the way some religious processions have been stoned in the country, the kind of discrimination which is happening probably against a majority community in some Congress-ruled states. But more important, they are seeing what is happening outside, the events in Bangladesh, where the Hindus are being persecuted, then the Israeli-Hezbollah war. All these factors are making people think that what are we doing? Why are we dividing ourselves? And therefore the rally cry of Yogi found huge resonance, not only in UP, but especially in Haryana. And I have a feeling as we go forward, this cry is going to get more and more. There's going to be consolidation of Hindutva, of the Hindu vote, whatever you want to call it. There is already a consolidation which has happened, by the way, of the minority community. We know that now they're voting en bloc. They are working almost like everybody's voting for one particular party. We know that. And therefore, to that extent, to counter that, this particular consolidation is also going to go on as happen of the majority community. And therefore, the BJP, to sum it all up, they deployed this four-pronged strategy. And again, the overarching vision is that overarching vision, and I will leave you with this particular point, is that when the chips are down, then what do you do? Do you, as हिंदी में जैसे कहते हैं कि आप फड़फड़ाना शुरू कर देते हैं, or you become calm, you settle down, you think it through, you start working quietly, diligently, efficiently, without making a noise, without coming in the public eye, behind the scenes. And this is precisely what the BJP has done in these elections. And of course, it has paid dividends in Haryana, as we can all see that. And going forward, it holds very, very good portents for the BJP in the upcoming elections in Maharashtra, Jharkhand, and Delhi. And so on this note, I come to the end of this particular podcast. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you like my show, do subscribe to it. And on this note, it's goodbye and cheers. Till next time.